loved The Odyssey. I went and saw it the other day, a few days ago, and scrolling on TikTok and seeing other people's opinions on The Odyssey. Of course, I think a lot of people liked it, probably the majority, but I don't know. Seeing TikTok criticism has given me lots of thoughts about social media and the way it's kind of impacted the way that we all look at art and not necessarily just experience art, but the way that we tend to evaluate it. And I was frustrated and I had to stop scrolling. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I loved the movie and also my opinions on social media and TikTok critics of movies. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is why I loved The Odyssey. Now, I'm not a movie reviewer. I am not I don't have a lot of faith in myself at like giving a full-on review critique whatever, but I am going to just say the few things that really moved me when watching the movie. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes, guys, sorry. So the first one, and I feel like this was mostly the oh, also, should I say spoilers? Can you spoil a movie that's based on a book from like thousands of years ago? I don't know, but like whatever. It was thousands of years ago, right? That's not a stupid. It was. It was like 2000 years ago. Anyway, sorry. Um, Old book nonetheless. But spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. I'm not going to go really that in depth, but I guess just warning. Um, but I guess a lot of it wasn't necessarily commentary, but more like imagery and underlining meanings around corruption and the act of war and even like violating Zeus's law, which is basically just treat others how you want to be treated, or treat others as if they, are God in disguise, but like, the basis is just be kind people just in case you never know, which like is kind of funny because like just be nice in general. But I feel like there's a lot of rules kind of like that. But anyway, you never know, right? So the violation of Zeus's law and just this, there's a moment at the end or towards the end of the movie where Odysseus is talking to Penelope and he's talking about his shame and his guilt. And you see, you see the Trojan War. Is it the Trojan War? War at Troy. Trojan horse. Trojan War. I'm not a Greek philosopher, you guys, or a Greek scholar. What am I saying? I'm not a Greek scholar, so I'm sorry. It's the Trojan War. I'm not crazy, right? The war at Troy. You see the war. And at first you see a first scene of the war and it's like really, really intense and like so satisfying and really cool. But then you see it again and you see the destruction and Odysseus like looking around and just seeing and hearing him talk about it and narrate it over, over the footage. But like, and I'm just going to paraphrase and kind of give what I left with it, not exactly what happened because I only saw it once and I don't really remember, but basically just him talking about how, they like violated these sacred walls, by, tricking. We all know the story of the Trojan horse, but like, I don't know. There's just something about that. I think, especially in modern times with the violence we see, I think a lot about corruption and this idea of like the original sin or like the ultimate sin of humanity and the fact that we are able to be so corrupt and so violent and we dehumanize each other. And the more we are desensitized to that violence, the more it happens. And you can see that, what's happening right now in this country or overseas. And like that really stuck with me, like seeing that destruction, even at the end of the movie, hearing him talk about like one day his mistakes will be forgotten and, a new day will come and all of that. I just thought that was really moving to me. And I don't know, just something I think about a lot with corruption and war and violence and the way humans engage in it. And I just thought it was really interesting for him to learn, like, I don't know. That was really interesting and moving to me. It's hard. I feel like I guess that's all I have to say about it. I'm not going to keep rambling about that point, but that was something that I don't know. It made me emotional when I watched that part. Then also another thing, and then there's this I guess thing of like the act of letting go. Odysseus spends the entire journey really fighting, like holding on to as much control as he feels like he might have, um, taking on this responsibility and feeling this guilt, but also just like, yeah, trying to hold on to control. And reality, like the way that he gets home is by releasing a lot of that control. I think that's something that I've been doing naturally in my life, which is probably why it stuck with me so much, because I don't know, it made me think of my own life. But I think that's always something that can be kind of emotional in movies or moving, is that sort of concept of like understanding there are things that are a lot bigger than you. Um and sometimes holding on to control is not doing anything but hurting you and the people around you. You know what I mean? And really like taking away, I don't know, maybe you could get to where you want to go faster if you just kind of let go and go with the flow a little bit. If I can stupefy that, that's a Potter spell, but like that's a thing I could say. If I want to make it like sound more dumbed down than it was actually intended, that's kind of what I mean. And then and then the idea of choosing to remember even when something is painful, like choosing to not Odysseus choosing to not continue to eat the lotus flower. I'm not going to get into the meaning. If you guys don't know, you just don't know. It's fine. But essentially choosing to remember even when those memories are extremely painful. It reminds me a lot of dissociation. Like you can spend a lot of time dissociating and avoiding painful memories or painful feelings, but the second you start to be present and be in your body and in your mind, it can almost feel like regression because you're feeling all of those feelings you put away, like you have to feel them again eventually. And I thought that was really interesting to see too. So those were some of the things really stuck with me. I also just can say like I am it was just entertainment wise, it was really incredible to watch. It did not feel like 3 hours to me at all for a second. I could watch it again. I literally kind of might go watch it again. And I'm not, I mean, I'll repeat watch movies, but Lord, 3 hours, but I'd watch it again. It was really good. Like I had such a good time watching it. Um, yeah, it was really good. And I'm not even like this crazy Christopher Nolan. Like I can't think of the time I've seen a Christopher Nolan movie and like been obsessed with it. However, I should say I saw Interstellar probably when I was too young to really care enough about it. I'm sure if I watch it again, I know everyone loves it. I'm sure it's good. Never saw Inception. Never saw the Batman movie he did. Sorry to the Christopher Nolan fans. I'm sure people are gonna be haters out there, but sorry. Haters to me, I mean, not to Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean. And I did watch Dunkirk for Harry Styles, and then I watched Oppenheimer. Didn't really care for either of those. I didn't care. I didn't care at all. So yeah, but this movie was really great. I was like so entertained, and again, I think I might watch it again. I loved it. I loved it. Getting into some of the criticisms that I disagree with, and there are few, and I'm going to get into the whole criticism conversation around like social media and people being annoying talking about movies online, but like, and the nuances of that. But just a few criticisms that I saw that I was like, let me just talk about this while I'm making this video. So I saw someone say that they thought that Helen of Troy, there was like some misogyny when she apologizes for the war, because at one point she's talking to Tom Holland's character's name. I can't remember what it is, something with a T. And she says like, I'm sorry for the war or whatever. And I saw some people say like, some people are taking that as, Christopher Nolan writing this character that is supposed to take responsibility for this war that is not her fault. To me, I did not get that perspective at all whatsoever. Like I did not see any misogyny in that personally. To me, it seemed like she is someone who was used as a pawn by men throughout her life, right? And saw this violence and for decades, right? The violence and the destruction and, is meeting the son who can't find his father and all these things. And like the guilt of a war that was done in her name. And people always tell her it's her fault and she didn't do anything. Like I could understand the human, like she's not going to respond outside of she doesn't have hindsight, right, on her side. We do, but she doesn't. So, like, I could see as a human in that moment how I can imagine feeling guilty. Like, I could understand that and feeling like this weird shame around it, especially if she went willingly. No hate to her either way, of course, but like, especially if she were to go to Troy willingly, I could definitely understand the guilt there. Of course, not her fault ever, but I don't know. I just didn't really get that vibe. To me, I saw to me, it felt very human and like normal to respond that way. And not like that's not her taking responsibility for it. I hope that makes sense. No hate to the critiques out there, to the critics, sorry. But I just thought that was interesting because it's like I just did not leave with that perspective. And then I know there's a lot of conversation around like the way Christopher Nolan wrote the female characters. There's some criticism that I definitely can understand, and like there's some things I didn't really think about, like people just saying, if you're gonna add a side character, like what's the point of not giving them a little bit of depth? But I don't know, I could understand some of it, so I'm not gonna blindly hate on it, but I didn't leave the theater feeling like that there was so much misogyny. I think especially because, and I'm going to get into this, but like, I don't think art has to check every single box. I think there are so many books and other forms of media out there that focus specifically on the women in these stories. And not that like, of course, I'd love a big movie that focuses on the women's story. Like, that would be great. Like a Christopher Nolan style movie that does that. And there's truly, like, that would be great. But that's not what this movie is. And I just don't feel like it has to be that. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The other thing was, oh, people talk about like gods, how the gods were not really seen and weren't super present, other than Zendaya's character playing, she played Athena. I kind of liked that. I liked that you see the gods as the Greeks would have also. And I guess to me, God is this, I mean, spirituality to me, it's inherent in humans all over. Like it's inherent part of the human experience. This idea that there are things bigger than us and there's this inherent balance. Like you don't have to be spiritual or anything. I am, so I believe that. And religion, whether that's Greek mythology or Bible, the Bible, whatever, religion is just the way that people um sorry, I lost train of thought. Religion is just the way people practice it, is what I was going to say. That's kind of how I feel. So I kind of like that you're seeing Zeus in the storms and you're seeing Poseidon in the sea and you're seeing, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing it in the, I don't know. I thought that was nice. You're seeing it as they would have. I didn't really need to see Zeus walking around or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if he does that in the book, but do you know what I mean? Like I didn't really need to see that. I was fine with it because there was also this conversation, and I didn't have this written down, but there was another conversation about like how there's no whimsy, how it's like mythology and they wanted color and fun and whimsy, and obviously it's not what this movie is. I didn't think it had to be. I thought it was really awesome. And I love a whimsical movie, but this isn't that one. This isn't that. But, no hate to anyone. You can have that if you want. I just thought that was it's interesting to me to watch this movie and be like, well, it wasn't whimsical enough. And I'm like, well, but yeah, it's not like I don't think that was the intention in the movie. I don't think I don't think Christopher Nolan was intending whimsy. I don't think he was. So there's that. But anyway, moving on to like my opinions on criticism in general, I think overall criticism is good and important. And I never want to be that person that's like only criticizing other critics, because I think that's lame, and there's value in criticizing art. Like I think it's fine, right? That's kind of the point. I think where I get frustrated, well, and this is another thing I'll say, I really loved the movie. So I think when you love something, it's really difficult to hear the criticism about something. Like that's normal, right? Like that just, also, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not talking too close to the mic. Sorry, I'm noticing I'm like capping. But anyway, yeah, like it's harder when you really like something to hear the criticism of it, because it can kind of suck. But I also think that it's fine for people to critique things. I don't think anyone needs to just blindly love art. I think that's silly. And the point of art is like it's subjective. But I do think I have gotten really frustrated, and I have a lot of opinions around social media, TikTok specifically. That's the social media that I scroll on. I don't scroll on anything else. But social media and the impacts of criticism on art, and like how I feel like conversations around, we can talk movies in particular, how they've changed because of social media. So I think the biggest thing for me is people feeling like creators, if you're going to create something. And I think a lot of us feel like creators. I mean, I'm creating something right now. Like a lot of us feel like that, even if we're not these big, huge creators. I think people feel like they need to have a take. So they'll see something, they'll see a movie, especially if it's popular, and feel like they need to have a take, which is not an opinion, not like a nuanced opinion, but like this saying something like objectively about something that's subjective, like art, saying something in a way where it's like, we need to talk about this, or Christopher Nolan did this and that's bad, or you know what I mean? Like this thing that it's like, it's so objective, when it's like, dude, what? Like it's not. But I think there's a thing there where it's like, I don't know, people just feel like that's what they need to have on the internet. So there isn't this experiencing art and talking about your experience. Sometimes there is, of course, and I'll get to that. But there is a lot of just like evaluating art and talking about what you don't like about it, because I think that goes a lot farther on social media. But just in particular, yeah, I just think there's something a lot about, I don't know, just people acting like their opinion, it's not just a personal opinion, but it's like an actual thing that is true, if that makes sense. I guess it's true to them, but I think that kind of leads me into this idea of like, we all know social media is like really radicalizing, and I think a reason for that is because you can always find someone that agrees with you. And I think this happens in, talking about movies or media, because you always can find someone that agrees with you. It makes you feel like your opinion is even more objective. You know what I mean? Like, because there's always someone who's going to be like commenting along, like, yeah, of course. And sometimes there's a lot of people. um and I don't know, I just think that that's really interesting. And I will also say, yeah, I'll move on. Let me move on to the third thing, and then I have like kind of an outro and some last thoughts. But I think this is where I'll take some accountability for me, because I think I was getting really frustrated this morning, like seeing people have these like things to say, and I was like, I just don't agree with that. I did not get that. And I think where I can be better is like, I don't have, first of all, I don't know a person that is saying something negative about the movie. They might not think that their opinion is this objective holy truth. It might just be coming across that way because it's posted online, and like I'm also consuming it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's two sides to it, because like I'm consuming something that someone says, and I'm assuming that they are 100% like 10 toes down on this opinion and whatever. Whereas to them, maybe it is just like, hey, this is my opinion and whatever, and they're just saying it in this way. I don't know these people, and they don't know me. And so like then it becomes that weird thing where it's like, well, I'm kind of engaging in it too by like getting so frustrated, where it's like they might have nuance to that. And this leads me to the last kind of point to wrap up is, I think when you're on, it's interesting because I watched Eddie Burback's YouTube video, shout out, about like how he put his phone away for a month. And it was funny that I watched this today, and he happened to talk about this. He happened to talk about like seeing movies and TV shows, and how he only really was talking about these shows with people that he knew. And you kind of, maybe if someone disagrees with you, you have a disagreement, and you just kind of move on with your day. But when you are like looking online at reviews and people that disagree with you, it feels like millions of invisible people that like disagree with you, and you must be the weird one for having this different opinion. It feels so extreme. So there's something to be said about that too. And like where I can take accountability, like to not be upset about people, because it does feel like that. It does feel like it's a million people that are just having all these opinions, and that I'm like, am I crazy for liking this thing? So I can understand where like kind of defensiveness can come in, whether you like something or you don't, or to defend your opinion in general. But I think that's where social media, I don't know, sometimes social media can feel like it can connect us truly, but then sometimes really it feels like it is so isolating and so radicalizing. And I don't know, when I watch, I have a second channel where I talk about like mental health, and I talked about doom. I posted a video about doom scrolling, and then I posted one right after about movies and how movies are this healthy form of consumption. And it just reminds me of that. I kind of touched on that video, but it's like when I left the Odyssey, I felt so connected to humanity. And like I said, I was thinking about spirituality. I was thinking about corruption and human suffering and violence, and like just all these things. And I felt close to people and thinking about whatever. It was like healthy thoughts. Are those healthy? I think so. But then like the second I get on TikTok, I'm like annoyed. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, it's getting dark, you guys. I'm gonna go. That's pretty much all I had to say. But shout out to the Odyssey. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever. Maybe I'll do some more movie reviews at some point. But that's all. Thank you guys for watching.